Testing, testing.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool. Let's go.
Whew, wow, what a week it's been.
Truly. I'm Alex.
And I'm Emily, and welcome to What a Week.
You want it, we got it. We're bringing you news by Zillennials for Zillennials.
Let's dive right in.
Okay, so first of all, we have to talk about some heavy news that happened this week. So on March 16th, on the Tuesday, a white man shot and killed 8 people, and those 8 people included 6 Asian American women. And this happened at different massage parlors in the Atlanta area. And we need to address it because this is just another example of white supremacy and an anti-Asian hate crime that is happening in our country and has been happening and has been increasing in the past year, and especially during the pandemic. So an organization called Stop AAPI Hate revealed that nearly 3,800 incidents were reported over about a year during the pandemic, and that a disproportionate number of the reports said that the attacks were directed at women. And I mean, we have to call it a hate crime. And it's kind of like when you think of the rhetoric that, for example, oh my God, I almost said President Donald Trump. That's how scarred I am. But when you think about the past President Donald Trump and kind of the rhetoric he used when talking about the coronavirus, I mean, I just want to say this: white supremacy is nothing new. I mean, this is what our country was built on and built upon.
Yeah.
But I think when you have people in power that allow this rhetoric to be looked at as okay, it kind of normalizes it. And I think it's so important for us and for everyone to talk about things like this and call it what it is. I know we've seen a lot of media speculation, or not even media speculation. We see headlines talking about the incident and not including that it was a hate crime. And we see the police there in Atlanta or in Georgia, and they're not saying it was racially motivated. They were saying, oh, it was just a sexualized crime because he said he was doing it because he was like repenting against his sexualization thoughts that he was having. But that's the thing. These are intersecting. He specifically went to these places where Asian American people were, and Asian American women specifically. And we need to address that there's a historical fetishization of Asian women that makes them susceptible to sexual and physical violence, such as what happened on Tuesday. I want to read this quote. Catherine Siniza Choi, an ethnic studies professor at the University of California, Berkeley, said this quote that I think we should really kind of discuss and think about. She said, "Killing Asian American women to eliminate a man's temptation speaks to the history of the objectification of Asian and Asian American women as variations of the Asian temptress, the dragon ladies, and the lotus blossoms, whose value is only in relation to men's fantasies and desires. This is horrifying. Stop fetishizing us."
Asians are just not, the Asian culture is not well represented in the media and movies. And actually, yesterday I was at work, we got a presentation about just like the climate in this country, specifically about race, which was very interesting. And it was specifically for kids in media. And I think they were saying how a lot of Asian kids feel like they're represented the least as far as like they're all grouped together in like it's like there's so many different ethnicities, right? Like there's or different cultures, I mean. Like there's you can be from China, you can be from Japan, Thailand. Like there's so many Asian countries and they're all grouped into one. And it's like, oh, it's the same culture, but it's not. And I feel like for a really long time, like to go on to about the sexualization of Asian women, it's like a long time for a while, Asian women were seen as like these very sexualized objects in movies and film and TV shows. It's like it's kind of like you have these stereotypes, and that was one of the stereotypes because they worked at massage parlors or they did certain things, and it's like that's not fair, and that feeds into this like how people get these fetishes, and it's not fair to one group people or group cultures into something, and it's not fair to sexualize certain cultures and like encourage people to fetishize them. And then it's especially terrible and fucked up to go and attack and shoot at these parlors where Asian women work. And I think the media sometimes, I feel like as somebody who used to work in news, like, sometimes I think the media is a little bit hesitant to say it's a hate crime or call things certain things until law enforcement does or says something, or like a politician or something, because they don't want to put their opinion on it. It could come out as like bias, I guess. But I do feel like
Right.
the police in Georgia have really dropped the ball with this. Like, I saw a quote from a police officer that was saying, like, "The shooter was having a bad day." I'm sorry, but, like, he wasn't
Mhm.
having a bad day. Call it what it is. It was a hate crime, and it was an act of terrorism, and it's messed up, and he should not have done that. And it's like, if it was any other ethnicity or culture that or another person who did that that was not white, they would not have said it was a bad day.
Totally. And even that police officer who said that this shooter this murderer was having a bad day, the same person on his Facebook made racist anti-Asian jokes about the pandemic on his Facebook. And it's just like this is why, like, last summer when the Black Lives Matter protests were kind of at its height and after George Floyd was murdered, and we were talking about kind of police brutality and how it's so rampant and how so many people are so distrusting of police. And it's like, this is why. We see it time and time again. And this is the person that's saying this was not a racist crime. This was not a hate crime. And yet he also engages in racist rhetoric. And it's like, of course, of course. Like, how can we
Yeah.
trust law enforcement when stuff like this continually happens and the perception we have of police continues to get what's the word? Like it like it like makes sense. Like it adds up. Like what we think of them
Yeah.
comes true.
And it's just so sad because it's like, I honestly feel like for a really long time, people have put in a lot of work, which they have needed to, and it's very long overdue. But I feel like recently, a lot of people are trying to educate themselves about how to be anti-racist, specifically towards Black people, which I think is very overdue, and everyone needs to do research and put in work to be anti-racist and anti-discriminatory. But I feel like people have really they haven't put in a lot of work on how to be anti-racist against Asian Americans or the
Mm,
Asian culture. And it's also really sad that, like, this is the first shooting, at least major shooting in a while, I feel like, because of the pandemic, and it's
mhm.
just so sad that now that the pandemic's getting a little bit better, this group is attacked.
Right.
And you were right, earlier you said how, Trump used to call it the China virus, and, like, he really started putting gas on this fire, and it's like, when you have someone
Mhm.
in power who says that, it empowers people who have similar thinking, or people who think similar to him, and that's not fair. That's not right. This isn't their fault, and it's not fair. Like, I have a friend
Mhm.
who the other day was walking down the street in LA, and somebody said something to her behind her back because she was Asian. Like, in LA. Like, how is that okay? Like, this is happening to so many people that we know, and
Right.
it's unacceptable, and it really breaks my heart.
It does. It's beyond frustrating. And you talked about it. I mean, we have to educate ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing. We have to educate ourselves on what hate crime looks like and how to be anti-racist. And I think it's so important to talk about this. Have these kind
Mhm.
of conversations with your friends, your relatives, the people around you, because we can't
Mhm.
get away with media and other
Mhm.
entities not labeling this what it is, as an anti-Asian hate
Yeah,
crime. And so I think it's so
exactly.
important to talk about. But moving on to our next topic, we're going to be talking about the Bachelor finale, which happened this week. So I mean, where to begin? I will
It
say
happened.
this. It happened. I will say this first of all, I have not watched the season. I watched like the end of the finale. I just kind of wanted to see the live show. Even then I was like trying to make brownies during it, so I wasn't like fully paying attention.
Fully
But
engaged.
yeah, I wasn't fully engaged. I mean, it's no secret that the Bachelor franchise is just so horrible to me. And I think especially this last season, it's just very, very
Yeah.
frustrating that this season this was the first Black male lead this show has seen. Keep in mind this was its 25th season. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's just this season should have been, even though it was long overdue, it should have been a good
Hmm.
season. It should have been
Yeah.
celebrated. But instead,
100%.
and we talked about this on our Instagram page. If you want to check it out, we did a Let's Talk About It in slideshows about kind of racism and sexism in Bachelor Nation and how embedded it
Hmm.
is in Bachelor Nation. But I mean, I feel like they know what they're doing. The people who cast for this show. So first of all, let's just say this: Rachael Kirkconnell, which is the same person who's had all these, who has a history of racism, cultural appropriation. She ended up winning this season, and Matt chose her in the end,
Which we all saw coming.
which we all saw coming. Um, but I think it's the casting of The Bachelor looks into these people so in depth. So when they
Hmm.
cast Rachel on this season, knowing that she has all this racism, all this history
Hmm.
of racism that's so easy to be found on her Instagram, and keep in mind she deleted a bunch of it before going on the show, so who even knows how much was there before? But they know what they're doing when they're casting her. And they know they're putting Matt James in a potentially dangerous situation. And the same thing happened with Rachel Lindsay when she was the first Black lead of the show has ever seen back in 2017. The storyline was one of the contestants, oh my gosh, I forget his name, Lee, I think his name was, but he was this racist with a whole, like, you could find it on his social media easily how racist he was. And he ended up being put on the show for drama. Like, clearly he was the drama person. And Kenny, who was one of my favorites and a fan favorite, was a Black man on the show, and Lee and Kenny got in debates, and the show painted Kenny as an aggressive Black man. And it's just like they know what they're doing. They put them on the 2-on-1 date against Rachel to cause more drama. This is dangerous. This is an actual racist here on the show. And it's just the it's just so beyond frustrating. So first of all, the fact that The Bachelor put Matt James in this situation is just absolutely awful. So, on the finale, the after the final rose, we ended up learning that they are no longer together, and they kind of discussed how they stopped being together after the photos of Rachel attending that Old South party in 2018. That's kind of when it ended. So I want to talk about a quote that Matt James said. He said, quote, "It was in the context of you not fully understanding my Blackness and what it would mean for our kids when I saw these things floating around on the internet. I didn't sign up to have this conversation." And I, it's just like, I want to know. I mean, no one has an obligation to share, but I think what we don't necessarily know, but what this alludes to, is that behind the scenes, it doesn't seem like Rachel was clearly admitting to him what had happened and clearly creating a safe space for him. I think he was done, and to me, it seems like she was kind of being problematic, or maybe trying to like hide the severity of what she had done in her past.
Yeah, it was such an awkward conversation because there were so many silences.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the silence speaks so much louder than words, and you can just tell he was at a loss of words. He was very hurt. And I think it did kind of feel like, I mean, she says that at first she didn't understand why they were breaking up. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I think she was a little bit in denial about the situation. And maybe she didn't own up to the severity of how serious this was and she hid it from him. We'll obviously never know. But I
Right.
mean, Matt is right. He didn't sign up to have these conversations. And to your point, they put him in an awkward predicament because I feel like they The Bachelor knew they had to cast a Black person, a Black man to be the lead because it
Mm-hmm.
was time and people were really starting to like ask for it. And I feel like that
Right.
enough was a lot of pressure. And then when this whole entire thing happened with Rachel, which obviously Matt did not sign up for, nobody signs up for that. I feel like the franchise put it on him to make it better, even though it happened after filming and it was something he didn't even know about. And so it is a lot of pressure on
Right.
him. And then he was also talking to the host of the after the final rose and was saying how like, as a Black man, you have to be careful with how you present yourself and how you talk and certain stuff. And it's just like they put so much pressure on him, which it's great. He did a great job, I think, as the Bachelor. I mean, this is my first time ever watching it, but I think he was great, and I can tell he's a genuinely, like, a nice human being, but it's I do really feel for him. I understand why he broke up with Rachel. They kept asking him, like, "Do you think there's a chance of reconciliation?" And I I understand why some people are like, "Was he too hard on Rachel? Like, should he have stuck it out?" But then I'm like, I don't know if I would be able to stick it out, you know? Because
Mhm.
it's one thing when you know they're a different person, right? Like, you did something terrible in 2018, but the person I know now is so different and has learned so much and genuinely grown. It's another thing that Rachel wouldn't have really grown if it wasn't for everything coming out and for all the scrutiny. And so I
Definitely.
think that's what makes the situation a little bit harder, and also that she never told him because according to Rachel, she's like, "I didn't even realize it was a problem until"
Mhm.
excuse me, "until I got all this hate and controversy for it, I started realizing and educating myself about why this is so problematic." So I feel like that's another reason why he was so disappointed in her and why it's so hard for him to stay with her. Because it's also like he also said, "It's not I don't wanna have the responsibility of helping you fix this."
Mhm.
Because it really needs to come from her, and she needs to put it work in by herself. And Matt shouldn't have anything to do with it. Like, it shouldn't be his responsibility to educate her.
Totally. I totally agree. And I think, I mean, you're right. And I think there was no way this could work. I think she needs to do this work on her own, and she needs to continue to do this work. Like, this isn't something, oh, she learned her lesson, it's fine. This is work that people have to do the rest of their lives. I mean, being anti-racist is not just a one and done thing. You have to continue to do the work. And I want to leave kind of this conversation about the finale with this quote that Matt James said. And he said, quote, "Rachel might not understand what it means to be Black in America." And it's true. And you were right. It's not his lesson to teach her. This is what she has to do on her own. And I just think that's so important. Like, I've been seeing so many comments and different things defending Rachel and going against what Matt was saying, which I think is absolutely ridiculous and really speaks to this show's just hatefulness and racism. Um, and yeah, that's what I'm going to leave with that. But one last thing from the finale, it was announced who the next Bachelorette will be.
We're the Bachelorette.
It'll be Michelle and Katie from this season, and they'll both be leads on separate seasons. One season they did like two bachelorettes that had to compete against each other. This time they'll each have their own separate season, and Tasha and Caitlin will be the hosts. So, what did you think about
Which
that
will be cool.
casting news?
Um, okay, so I don't know what it was about this season. Again, I've never watched The Bachelor until this season, but I feel like in episode 3, everyone knew that Rachel won.
Right.
And I don't think it was necessarily because they like Matt or Rachel had like spoilers and like spilled the beans. I feel like someone from within The Bachelor like spoiled it
Mm-hmm.
because everyone knew. And like episode like 5 or 6 or something, like everyone was like, Katie's going to be the Bachelorette.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew it was going to be Katie. And I'm curious to see if they always wanted to pick Katie and Michelle, or if after the Rachel controversy, they're like, shit, we need to pick a Black Bachelorette.
Right.
But honestly, I like I like Katie and Michelle. I wasn't very invested in either of them this season. I personally really liked Abigail and Bree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like they would both be good bachelorettes. I mean, I'm not mad at it either. Like they weren't bad. But I really want to see an Asian bachelorette or a Latina bachelorette
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think they've had either. But I'm just happy that that Michelle is a bachelorette and they're gonna have another Black Bachelorette because I think it's like the more diversity in this franchise, the better because they freaking definitely need it.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I was seeing those Katie spoilers too, which again, did not watch this season, so I know everyone, but I don't really know them from like the show or anything. I know just through like my research, but it was
Yeah.
weird. It was so unprecedented when I heard it was going to be Katie because first of all, like of the final 11, I believe it was all women of color except for Rachel. Katie, I believe, was eliminated at like 12, which is what I had read, which is so unprecedented for 12th place to
She didn't
be.
get that far.
Yeah, she didn't get that far, which it was a weird decision based on literally all the women left were women of color. So it was like interesting. Why is this show that we know is racist not choosing a woman of color as the lead? So I mean, I'm glad they kind of must have taken the criticism and picked Michelle. I hope that's why. But it's still weird to me that Katie was chosen. Like, do you feel like she was by far the fan favorite and portrayed really well on the show?
No.
That's so weird.
No, I think people liked her because I think Katie was one of the most okay, it was interesting. So early in the season, there was this girl, I think her name was Sarah, who had a really good connection with Matt. She ended up leaving early because her dad had an illness and she just felt bad being on the show and leaving her dad. And so at first, Katie was kind of like more mean or just like put her foot down a little bit more, and then she ended up talking to this girl who interrupted her one-on-one her date with Matt, and after she heard her point of view, she's like, "Oh, like, okay, I feel bad, like, I'm sorry if I was mean to you or whatever," and then after that, Katie kind of pivoted and started defending people and being against, like, being and like, defending people when they were bullying someone, and so I feel like that's why people really liked her, and I feel like that's why they probably picked her because she was so quick to defend people and to just stand up and not be a bully and to defend that people against the bullies of the season, which there were a lot. And so I think that's part of the reason why they picked her. But she wasn't my favorite. I think my favorites were Abigail and Bree from the season. But I have one question for you. Do you think The Bachelor handled the Rachel controversy well? Or what do you think they could have done to improve it?
I it's hard because on some hands, I think they handled it differently than they would have in any other season. Um, because I mean, even thinking about Rachel Lindsay's season in 2017 when that the Lee. I keep forgetting his name. Sorry, y'all. I got the COVID vaccine earlier and I'm very tired now. So I'm like slurring my words. Everything's fuzzy. But he was racist and they never really addressed it at all. Like on the after the final rose, nothing at all. Then in 2018, I believe it was, Becca was the bachelorette and her winner, Garrett, they're no longer together, but when they were together and during the show, it came out kind of in the same way that Rachel did, Rachael Kirkconnell, that everyone kind of knew she won the season, and so that's why everyone was talking about her a lot. Same happened with Becca when she chose Garrett. So before we knew he was the winner, it came out that he on Instagram had liked a ton of racist, transphobic, like awful, awful, awful Instagram posts. And Chris Harrison was kind of just like, "Oh, are you sorry?" Like that was basically the whole conversation. So I think they did better this year than they have in the past. Do I think they have done a good job? No, I don't think so. I think, I mean, clearly, like, initially with the Katie rumors, like, this is their first time they had chosen two bachelorettes at the same time. So clearly, like, they were just going to choose a white woman once again, amid everything going on. Clearly, they put Matt James in this potentially dangerous and awful situation. I mean, even choosing, like, Tasha and Caitlyn, it just seems random. Like, I don't know why they chose both of them. Like, if they wanted
Why
to
couldn't it just been Taisha?
yeah, why couldn't they just choose her? I don't know what they're thinking or what they're doing. And if I see Chris Harrison ever come back, I won't think they did a good job at all. I think he needs to be gone. I think they need to find a permanent host, and that's almost why I feel like they just did it as like a temporary kind of band-aid on the situation by picking two past people from the show, because then they can be like, oh, this is just a one-time thing. Like the same way JoJo on Tasha's season had temporarily hosted. Like I just, if they wanted a real host, I think they'd find a real host. Not that they're not real hosts, but I don't think they're permanent hosts.
Like some like yeah.
So I don't think it's not they could have done worse, but I don't think they did a good job.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they did a good job, but I think they did better,
Totally. For sure.
but not great.
Yeah, not great.
But now we're gonna pivot into another pretty important and heavy topic. So David Dobrik is apologizing for past mistakes in his content. So he posted an apology video on his Views Podcast's YouTube channel. And this is actually kind of rare. I don't believe David Dobrik has ever apologized for anything in his videos, pertaining to his videos. And so this apology video comes as a former Vlog Squad member faces allegations of rape and sexual assault, and another former Vlog Squad member accuses David of tricking him to kiss Jason Nash in 2017. So I want to break down everything that's happening because it's very important to inform everybody of everything. So, a woman is accusing Dirt Dom of rape in 2018. She says she was raped in 2018 while filming a video that was posted on David's channel. She said she was given a lot of alcohol by Blog Squad members and blacked out. Then she says she was involved in group sex with Dom that she did not consent to. Last month, former Vlog Squad member Seth Francois, I believe I'm saying his last name right, spoke out and said he was tricked into kissing Jason Nash in a video in 2017. Seth said, that he thought he was going to be kissing Corinna Kopf, who is another Vlog Squad member slash model slash video gamer. And the kiss with Jason was non-consensual and was sexual assault. So in his apology video, David talks about consent. Let's listen.
Consent is something that's super, super important to me. Whether I'm shooting with a friend or shooting with a stranger, I always make sure that whatever the video I'm putting out, I have the approval from that person. And I also acknowledge that there's times where a person can change their mind and they decide that they no longer want to be associated, they no longer want to be in the video that I'm putting up, and then I'll take the video down. And there's also been moments where I've looked back on videos and I realize that these don't represent me anymore and they're hurtful to other people, and I don't want them up because I've grown, as a content creator and as a person, and I don't agree with some of the videos I've posted.
So David also apologized to Seth in his apology video, which is about 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So this is what he had to say to Seth.
With the Seth situation, I'm sorry to Seth because like I said, I just want to make videos where everybody in it, whether you're participating or watching, is enjoying and having a good time. And I missed the mark with that one. And I'm really sorry. I truly, truly am.
Current member of the Vlog Squad, Scotty Sire, posted a video on his YouTube channel about a week or two ago where he defended David, saying that David did get consent from Seth. They have text to prove it, and that Seth was okay doing the skit, and he even asked David to do the skit a second time because he got so much clout or feedback from the first one. And so he was just saying how I watched the video before it was taken down. Scott ended up taking it down a couple days ago, and he was saying how it's okay if you change your mind, but don't go and accuse someone of not getting your consent when there's proof and you know that you asked for it. And so it's a he said type of situation. And like I mentioned before, Scott took down the video from his channel because originally a lot of David Dobrik supporters were praising him, but then it turned around and people were like, well, why are you automatically taking David's side? And so he took it down. And so also there's two videos on David, or there were two videos on David's channel that showed Seth kissing Jason, or Jason kissing Seth, and those have both been taken down. In his apology video, David also says that he has distanced himself from his friends who he no longer aligns with or has been disappointed with their actions.
And with people in my life that I don't film with anymore, like Dom and the other people that I no longer film with, I chose to distance myself because I don't align with some of the actions, and I don't stand for any kind of misconduct, and I've been really disappointed by some of my friends, and for that reason I've separated from a lot of them. I think with any video I make, my main purpose is to make people happy and inspire people, and I never want anything to get in the way of that. And I'm sorry if I've let you down, and things like that won't happen again. And I learned from my mistakes, and I also believe that actions speak a lot louder than words. And you can take my word for it that I'm going to change, but I'll also show you and I'll prove to you that the mistakes I made before won't be happening again.
What do you think about all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, the biggest thing that I was seeing criticized when it was posted is that he did it on his podcast's YouTube, which has about 1 million
Yeah,
something followers, and not his personal YouTube, which has, I don't know, way more than that. So that
yeah,
was the first criticism. The second one was the title was like, let's talk about it or whatever. And then he disabled
yeah.
comments. So it's just like, I,
And he disabled, oh, sorry, he also disabled the like and dislike ratio. So you can like or dislike the video, but you can't see how many people liked or disliked the video.
yeah, so it's just like to me, and especially to be so short, I feel like he had to have like prepared what he was gonna say, didn't want to like ramble and give his genuine thoughts. Because if like you're doing something for 2 minutes, you're like, okay, I can say what I need to say. Whereas if you're being genuine about something, especially an apology about something this major, I just don't see it realistically only taking 2 minutes. And wanting to talk about it and start a dialogue about it, an important dialogue about it, just to censor your video in that way, it's just it seems so performative and like doing the very bare minimum to me. And as for I didn't have a chance to see Scott's video. I did see an article about Seth kind of talking about his experience and what made him realize it was sexual assault. I don't remember what website. It might have been the Daily Beast or it might have been BuzzFeed. So sorry, everyone. I read it like a couple weeks ago. But Seth said after the Black Lives Matter protests were at its height last summer, he was kind of just thinking about like his experience associated with the Vlog Squad and kind of what he went through, and he was like, oh shit, like that was sexual assault. And then he just it was so heavy on him after he kind of came to that realization. And I think like it's just like I think consent is such a thing that you can't draw a fine line for it. You have to get full consent to know it's consent.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think if there was any question that he did not consent to this, maybe he was like, oh, it got clout after he didn't consent to it. Yeah, let's do it again. Like, that's not consent. That's not.
yeah,
Because the first time it wasn't. And so I think I mean, it's very telling too that Scott's video was taken down, whereas Seth, these allegations are still very strong and very out there. Um,
yeah,
I mean, I always believe everyone who says they have experienced sexual harassment or assault or any sort of violence in that way. So, I mean, I think David Dobrik, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that he created an
yeah.
environment in which something like this could thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was a point where his videos were just very crazy. I've watched basically, I want to say I've watched like 80% of David Dobrik's videos, and they were very crazy and chaotic, and I feel like there was like an array of people that he hung out with, from like being more like safe and mild to like crazy ass people. And he
Right.
has weeded a lot of the crazy ass people out of his vlogs and out of his life, I want to say, within the past year or two. I think I I'm glad he's taken videos down. Well, first of all, I'm glad he took the 2 videos of Seth down, and at least he apologized, because at the end of the day, you can't take back what happened. You can only move forward, take accountability, and apologize. At least he did that. I
Right.
think it's terrible that there was ever an environment where somebody would get raped. And it's like, even if David wasn't the one immediately involved in that situation, and he could have been on the other side of the room, and like not even like like he probably, what if he, speculation, that he might not have even known that happened. But
Mhm.
it's just like creating the environment for that to ever happen, it's just not okay, you
Definitely.
know. And I feel like they partied a lot.
Right.
And I also feel like it, I'm glad that he took the videos down. I'm glad that he's taking videos down that he no longer aligns with, because at the end of the day, people evolve and grow. There's things everyone has done in their past that they just don't align with anymore, and that they've grown. So I'm glad he's taking accountability in that way, and he's saying like, look, there, I posted some shit that I don't agree with anymore. I've taken it down. I think what matters now is his actions, because
Mhm.
he even said at the end of his video, he's like, I'm saying I'm sorry and I'm going to change, but I'm going to show you that I'm going to change. And that's what people need to hold him accountable for at the end of the day. Like,
Totally.
practice what you preach. And that's the same thing with Rachael Kirkconnell. She's saying she's going to change and she's going to put in the work. Actually put in the work and show people that you're making the change, and that you're not the same person that you were 5 months ago or whatever. And so I am disappointed that his video was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. I feel like he definitely could have said a lot more. I feel like it kind of was the bare he just played it safe. You can tell he was playing it safe. you know, the vague let's talk. Everybody knew it was going to be like an apology video, and most of the time the YouTubers are like hi, or like they kind of like aren't very direct about it when they post this stuff. And also I think it's kind of annoying that he took the comments off. I get why, because he probably was like, I don't want to start more issues. He could have been like, I don't want to start more issues in the comments, or I don't want to take anything away from the video by like the comments are all going to be people talking shit or defending me or whatever. So I get why he would have done it, but it's annoying as a viewer to be like, okay, you disabled the comments and now I can like or unlike the video, but I can't see how many dislikes it gets. It's like you're protecting your image, where it's better to create an open environment. Like Olivia Jade, she's come back to YouTube now after the college admission scandal, and even though it's very annoying what happened with her with her parents and that whole situation, at least she hasn't disabled comments or dislikes and likes, even though half of the comments are bad. You know, so it's just like leaving that area for discussion. But I guess now we just have to wait and see what happens. And yeah, it's really unfortunate that both of those instances that happened that I just mentioned above are pretty just terrible that that happened in the first place.
I totally agree. And I think that's the unfortunate thing. You mentioned kind of Rachel relating to this as well. Like, I think that's the unfortunate thing, especially seeing the comments disabled, because unfortunately, these people are always going to have supporters no matter what they do. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
Rachael Kirkconnell's comments on Instagram, like people are in full support of her. And
And she's gotten more likes and follows since.
totally. And I think the fact that like the people who are calling out these people for their actions, their comments are now on David Dobrik's video not able to be seen because he disabled it. I think that's important discourse that the people who maybe unapologetically are supporting him, they need to see that, and they need to see why people are talking about
Mhm.
this and then the way that they are. So I just
Yeah.
think the let's talk and then having that is like the most, not the most frustrating, because obviously there's very serious allegations surrounding it, but it's just like it's all just absolutely ridiculous, and it should not have happened this way.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, this was a heavier show. We talked about very important topics, so I think we want to end it by just saying like educate yourself about how to be anti-racist, about consent, about just like how to be a better person and how to be more considerate, because I think even if you think you're the most woke person ever, there's ways to be more woke, and there's ways to always continue to educate yourself and have open dialogue with your friends, especially people who have different opinions than you. And don't always be so quick to fight with them. Just like listen, try to see things from their point of view and educate them if you think they're wrong about something, or if you think there's room for them to grow. So just always think about what you're saying, what you're doing, and how your actions can affect others.
Totally. And I think I kind of want to add to that too, like speak up against hate crimes that you see happening. I think oftentimes, and this is kind of something that was talked about a lot last summer, but it's better to say something and maybe say it wrong and need to learn how to say it rather than not say anything at all. So speak up against hate. I mean, that's what we have to do.
Yeah, speak up against hate, against bullying, against sexual assault. If you see somebody being victimized, speak up, speak up, speak up. And always spread resources too. Even if you think if you want to protest and you feel safe enough to do that, even with COVID and stuff, and do that. If you want to spread resources on Instagram, that works too. Just don't ever stop educating yourself
Totally.
and
And we'll
speaking up.
drop a couple links in our description
Hmm.
on the YouTube notes as well as the podcast notes. So those will be there for y'all as well.
Yes. And well, anyways, let's now pivot into our good news of the week. It was a heavy week, but there's still some good news to share. So Alex, do you want to start? What's your good news?
Yes, so I will share. I mentioned it a little earlier, but I did get my first dose of the COVID vaccine. My arm. Okay, so I'll give a little short synopsis. So basically, in San Diego County, well, in California as a whole, people with underlying conditions are now allowed to get their COVID vaccine. But in San Diego County specifically, this includes people with a body mass index of greater than 25. And I think wherever you live, check out kind of what the regulations and rules are, because most people have a BMI of above 25. And for reference, I'm 5'3" in height and I weigh 165 pounds. So I was 29. So definitely if you're around that or taller, whatever it may be, check out to see if you're eligible where you live. But I finally got a appointment for today. It happened today. And I got it at about, right now at where our recording time, it's 8:45-ish. I got the dose around 2:45. So it's been about 6 hours. I will say my arm is sore. Like, it's definitely, I can feel it right now just sitting here, but when I lift it like this or like this, like, it definitely hurts. I've been feeling fatigued for the past maybe like 2 hours. And I felt like a little headache come on, but nothing crazy. Going into there, it was pretty quick. But afterwards, because I've had an allergic reaction to, it says I'm allergic to Benadryl now on my records, because one time I got a shot of Benadryl and like had a horrible, like almost died reaction to it. So,
What? Oh, God.
yeah, wait, you don't know this story? I'll tell you off the show.
No.
It's very
Tell me
long.
offline. Yeah. What the?
So I had to wait 30. So usually if you get the vaccine, you have to wait 15 minutes for an observational period after, just to make sure you don't have any reactions. They had me wait 30 minutes just because I've had a reaction to Benadryl, a shot of Benadryl before. But usually I was looking it up because I was curious, because I have anxiety, but I was looking it up and it said usually if you're going to have an allergic reaction, the mean time that it happens is 17 minutes after. So like, as long as you make it past then, like, you should be fine. And then side effects are totally normal. So my arm hurting, totally normal. A lot of people, after I got Moderna, there's 3 different ones authorized in the United States: Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. All of them have 100% effectiveness against hospitalizations and deaths. So anyone that is available to you, please, please, please take it. It doesn't matter which one, they all work. So yeah, I got Moderna because that's the one that was at the site available to me. And I get my second shot in exactly 4 weeks. And I'm just so excited. But yeah, a lot of people get the like side effects after the second. So I'll definitely keep y'all updated. But
Yay.
yeah.
I'm so excited for you. That's like, and so now you and your mom are both vaccinated, which is just like a huge weight off my shoulders. Even though I don't see you, I'm just like, thank God.
I know. And my sister is eligible as well. She's actually going on a staycation over the weekend. So she's like waiting until after, just in case she gets side effects, but she's now eligible. So I'm like, thank God everyone in my house
Thank God.
is about to be covered.
Oh, I love that. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. How about you? What's your good news?
Okay, so my good news, they're more like updates, but they're still good news. So I finished season 6 of Gilmore Girls
Oh
in
my
3
gosh.
days, you guys. 3 days. I swear I have life. But I just like, I wake up, watch it, after work, watch it, like repeat. Like so I'm on the last season of Gilmore Girls, and that's very exciting to me. Season 7 is that season that Amy Sherman Palladino didn't write because of like there were like contract issues and stuff. So people say it's like an okay season,
Right.
which is sad since it's the last season. So after this, I'm going to watch Seasons, which I remember watching and being kind of like about. So whatever. Last season right now, I'm stoked. That was my good news. And then Keeping Up with the Kardashians comes out on Thursday. Very excited about that. And then Falcon and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out on Friday. So I'm very excited about that. So anyways, it's a great week for me. That's all.
Yeah, it's a good week of entertainment. And I will say, we've talked about this for a while. I am in the exact same place you are in Gilmore Girls. You know this. I've been stuck on like the season finale of season 6 for like a month now just because I hate it. So I can't convince myself to watch it.
But the season finale of season 6 is pretty wild.
Oh, really? Okay, I've been halfway done and I keep falling asleep. Like literally over and over. I'm going to watch it after, I think, tonight.
The ending is pretty good.
Okay, good. I'm going to get through it. I promise you that. But I think we should get through the season 7 pretty quickly and do a Gilmore Girls episode. Like, we finally should do it, and we should
100%.
invite Will Fritz.
I'm going to be done this week, and I'll probably finish on at how I'm pacing. I will finish season 7 of Gilmore Girls by Saturday, and then I will finish seasons probably by Tuesday. So by the next recording, I'll be done. Like, I've been getting through. I used to get through a season in a week when we first started like 3 weeks ago, and now I'm getting through 2 seasons in a week. So I'm fucking great at binge watching.
You're dedicated. It might take me longer, but we will definitely have an episode probably in
April.
Yeah, in April. I'm down for April.
Okay, cool. But I mean, I guess we should read everybody else's good news.
Yes, let's do it. Okay.
Okay, I can start with Olivia.
Okay.
So she said she got to go on a bike ride for the first time in a while. I love bike rides. That's awesome.
That's I love that. I want to do that even though I'm not good at riding bikes, but I want to do it. Jack said, I don't know if this was a joke. I think it's song lyrics, but he said, I'm broke with money but rich in taste, which we're happy for him.
And he's going on a work trip soon.
Yeah, and he's going on a work trip, so that'll be good.
I was about to call Jack Jake. I used to call him Jake because I genuinely thought Alex's boyfriend's name was Jake. And then and on Twitter, I'm like, Jake, you're wrong. And Alex is like, no, you're wrong. And I was like, but his name's Jake. And then I check his Twitter thing and I was like, oh, fuck, his name's Jack.
That was funny because I said you're wrong and then you were like, you're wrong. I was just like, okay.
I did say that. I love you, Jack.
I need to go find it. That was so funny. I'm going to look for it after.
And then Laura said she got the keys to her new apartment and she also got promoted at work. So good for you.
Oh my God. That's awesome. Congrats.
And yeah, so that does it for our show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you learned a lot this episode. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel at What a Week with Alex and Emily. And if you want to go the extra mile and donate, we would love you even more. And you can do that by being a Patreon for us, which is in the link in our bio and the description of the video.
Yes, and then you can find us on social media. We're on Instagram at What a Week Show, and then we're on Twitter and TikTok at What a Week Show _.
Yay! Have a great rest of your weekend, whenever you're listening to it. Have a good day.
Yes,
and
we
yeah,
will
be
see
safe,
you.
Wear a mask, spread love. Goodbye.
Mwah. Bye.